In the Structural Aspects module of Applied Facade Engineering course, among other aspects, we cover movement and tolerances. There we also discuss various loads exerted on the external envelope and how these loads are accommodated by different facade systems. This case study course offers a great opportunity to analyze how stick curtain wall and precast concrete window panel facades deal with primary framework deflection, installation and fabrication tolerances. In the first renovation strategy, when the entire primary framework, including the existing load-bearing facade, is retained, we do not have to deal with the instantaneous facade dead load deflection. Long-term dead load deflection has already taken place over the last 50 years. Life load deflection should not be an issue either, as the original use of the structure was car park. The deflection parameters from furniture and occupants should be far smaller than of cars. We only have to deal with thermal expansion and installation tolerances of the new window profiles. Allowing a 10 to 15 mm gap between the new windows and the existing concrete screen apertures should be sufficient. The lugs holding the windows in place may either have slots or oversized holes to allow for thermal expansion. In the option where the existing concrete screen is retained and new primary framework is installed, the new structure will move independently from the external facade. The outer existing screen will be dead loaded at the bottom and the laterally restrained to the new concrete slabs. The brackets connecting the screen to the new slabs should have vertical slots to allow for slab movement as it deflects under weight of the occupants and furniture. This bracket should also take into account the imperfections of the new slab. Concrete installation tolerances are usually 20 mm, meaning that the slab edge could be poured 10 mm in or out of the designed position. Similar installation tolerances for the connection of the existing screen and the new framework should be considered with the third option, where the mass timber is used as a new primary framework. However, the long-term dead load deflection and column shrinkage parameters will be significantly higher than in the concrete option. This is because of the mass timber frame shrinkage. Timber shrinkage primarily occurs as wood dries and loses moisture content until it reaches equilibrium moisture content with its environment. The extent of shrinkage in timber is influenced by factors such as timber species, initial moisture content, and the difference between the initial and the final equilibrium moisture content. Unlike concrete, timber shrinkage is anisotropic, meaning that it varies in different directions, radially, tangentially, and longitudinally. Longitudinal shrinkage in timber along the grain is generally considered by structural engineers to be minimal, typically ranging from 0.1% to 0.3%. Nevertheless, its impact on the facade is significant. For instance, if we assume an average value of 0.2% for buildings with floor-to-floor height of 3 meters and 15 centimeters, this means that the columns are expected to shrink by approximately 6.3 millimeters. Consequently, the entire 7-story structure may shrink by about 44 millimeters over its full height. Shrinkage of glue-lime columns and higher value of the cross-laminated timber slab deflection under the life load is accommodated via steel brackets of the balcony. The timber frame will move independently from the precast concrete screen, which is dead loaded at the ground level. And in theory, the bracket connecting the top floor slab of the existing concrete screen may need to accommodate the shrinkage of up to 44 millimeters. This is a very significant value, and for this reason, the selection of timber species for the glue-lime columns and the moisture content management in the mass timber will be of significant concern. The timber shrinkage should be as minimal as possible. The targeted value should be ideally below 0.2% for the project to be viable. It is important to mention that the timber shrinkage, long-term dead load deflection, and instantaneous dead load deflection from the stick curtain wall facade should be accommodated by the connection between the balcony and the existing precast concrete panel, rather than the connection between the timber frame and the balcony. It is important for the timber slab to be always level with the balcony decking, so that the balcony remains accessible and the door threshold dimension does not increase over time. The connection of the upper balcony steel to the existing precast concrete screen should be near the top of the slot to ensure that there is enough room in the slot for the ball to travel downwards as the timber structure shrinks. The scenario with the curtain wall facade between the concrete and the timber frame is more complicated. The curtain wall is dead loaded at the cross-laminated slabs at each level, meaning that the curtain wall screen will follow the deflection of the slab. That means that the joint between the mullions of the neighboring floors will have to account for the movement of the slab as well as the column shrinkage. In fact, the joints should account for the following parameters. Firstly, fabrication tolerances, meaning that the profiles could be cut to slightly different lengths. The profiles are usually cut to lengths off-site in a controlled environment with a high standards of quality control. Let's assume a maximum of 1 mm tolerance for the profiles if they are to be cut on off-site. Secondly, the installation tolerances. For example, when the profiles could be installed by the site operatives at slightly different levels by the installers. Unlike unitized facades, stick curtain wall profiles are assembled on site. Therefore, the quality assurance procedure could be problematic. Let's assume 2 mm tolerances for the site installation. Thirdly, thermal movement. The profiles will expand and contract as temperature changes. Assuming the profiles has a length of 3 meters and 15 centimeters, and considering a typical temperature range in London, which might vary broadly from about -5 degrees Celsius in winter to 35 degrees Celsius in summer, giving a potential temperature change of 40 degrees Celsius, we can estimate the maximum thermal movement to be about 2.9 millimeters per length. Then we have timber column shrinkage. As we already discussed, it is around 4 to 6 mm per floor, providing that we are targeting a shrinkage value to be below 0.2%. This movement is expected to happen only in one direction. Lastly, we have instantaneous dead load of the facade coupled with life load deflection from furniture and occupants. This deflection will not be distributed equally around the perimeter of the slab. Cross-laminated timber slab will deflect parabolically. The mullions, which are attached to these slabs at each level, will follow suit. For the joints between the mullions, we have to work with the most onerous deflection value in the middle of the slab between the columns. The geometry of the screen will change. The glazing units and panels will move within the chambers created by the curtain wall profiles and pressure plates. There should be enough room for the glass to move within this chamber without clashing with the thermal breaks between the pressure plate and the curtain wall profiles. As you can see, structural failure is not the only issue that could be caused by deflection. The movement can result in glasses sliding outside of the chamber, and the seal between the gaskets and the glazing unit could be compromised. Consequently, this could lead to air and water leakage. For this reason, it is crucial to anticipate the maximum curtain wall screen deformation. Most off-the-shelf curtain wall profiles and pressure plates are 50 to 65 mm wide. However, for the screens with high anticipated deflection parameters and tall glasses, it may be required to use much wider mullions, transoms and pressure plates to ensure that the chamber between the glasses and the thermal breaks is sufficient for the glasses to move as the slab deflects without compromising seal between the glass and the gasket. Lastly, we should analyze the refurbishment option, where the existing precast concrete panels are reclaimed and reused as the window panels. In this case, concrete panels will be suspended from the slabs of the new in-situ concrete frame. The joints between the panels will have to take into account the following aspects. Installation tolerances value will be much larger than of the curtain wall facade, as it is a challenge to maneuver in place a large precast concrete panel suspended from the crane. The tolerance allowance should be more forgiving. It is important to design the bracket connection to the primary framework so that it can accommodate imperfections of in-situ concrete. The slab level will be inconsistent. The vertical position of the bracket and the panel will likely to be compensated by metal packer shim plates under the bracket. The slab edge line will also be inconsistent. For this reason, the gap between the precast panel and the slab should be no less than 70 to 90 mm. The residual gap should be large enough for the correct application of insulation between the concrete panel and the slab to deal with the thermal bridging. The gap should be also of sufficient size to allow for installation of a proprietary fire-stopping system. Slab will deflect on the weight of the precast concrete panels with pre-installed windows and mineral wool insulation installed from the inside. This is so-called instantaneous dead load of the slab under the facade dead load. Lastly, the slab will deflect under life load from occupants and furniture. All these deflections values and tolerances parameters should be taken into account when designing the joint sizes between the precast concrete panels. It is likely for the joints between neighboring panels to be no smaller than 20 mm.